Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us here on the Inside NASCAR. I'm standing at the start-finish line of the famed Darlington Raceway, where the Trans-South Financial 400 NASCAR Winston Cup race rolls off here this afternoon. And this will be the final time that this will be the front stretch. They're going to flip-flop this track. They're going to move the front stretch to the back stretch to the front stretch. Dale Jarrett will lead a 43-car field off here this afternoon. He's won the pole here on Friday. Had a Busch race here yesterday, and boy, was it an exciting finish. Randy LaJoie came home the winner. Let's go to our studios in Charlotte, North Carolina. Tyler Potter will take a look back at that race, catch us up to date on all the news, and preview today's race. Good morning, Tyler.
All right, Ned, thanks a lot, and good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Sunday edition of Inside NASCAR. All eyes are focused on the Darlington Raceway this weekend as the Busch cars ran there yesterday, and the Winston Cup regulars run the Trans-South 400 later today. The NASCAR family was saddened upon arriving in South Carolina on Friday by the news that Craftsman Truck Series driver John Nemechek passed away Friday morning at 11:30 a.m. Nemechek had been in a Miami hospital since last Sunday when his number 8 Chevy truck went into the turn 1 wall, driver's side first. The severe brain injuries that he suffered, along with the uncontrollable swelling, led to his untimely passing late Friday morning. When the news at Darlington hit, the racing seemed to take a back seat, as most everyone's thoughts were on the Nemecheks in South Florida.
The whole fraternity is saddened by this event. John was a promising young driver coming up. The Nemechek family really has a commitment toward motorsports, and we're sorry to see that happen. The same feeling applies when anytime someone has the misfortune of losing their life.
I was probably the first one in the garage to put memory of John Nemechek on my race car. I'll tell you, I can't explain it. It's a bad deal. You know, I've interviewed a couple of times, and you know, I hate it for the series. I hate it for his family. We can't blame Homestead Motorsports facility. We can't blame NASCAR. We can't blame any other competitor. It's just one of those darn things that happened. And the same thing happened to Jay Sauter, and Jay was a little luckier than John. John was a fierce competitor. I think he had a bright future in this business. You know, his whole family was behind him 100%, and nobody in that garage area in the truck series, or this garage area over here for that matter, wanted to do good more than John. And it's just a terrible thing. It's an unfortunate thing. I've been pretty tore up about it. It's been a bad weekend.
Nemechek was 27 years old and is survived by his parents Joe and Martha and older brother Joe.
Joy and Jarrett both dedicated their wins to John Nemechek, who lost his life last weekend due to brain injury suffered during the Craftsman Truck Series race in Homestead, Florida. His death was a real blow to the racing community and was definitely on everyone's mind at Darlington. Throughout the garage area at Darlington last week, stickers and buttons served as painful reminders that one of NASCAR's own had just passed away. The death of John Nemechek hit everyone hard, and hearts poured out to his family and friends. The Nemecheks are well known as a tight-knit, loving group, and the racing community has been quick to show their support.
Well, one of the things you do with all people who face this kind of situation is to help them to deal with it in reality. In other words, help them to grieve. Instead of to avoid grief, you need to really help people to understand grief, and grief in itself is a healing process. And so we go through helping the family to understand that and tell them it's okay to cry, it's okay to grieve. In fact, that we encourage them to do that.
John Nemechek was just beginning to realize the potential many believed he was capable of. Since joining the Craftsman Truck Series in 1995, Nemechek had posted 4 top 10 finishes, with his best one a 7th, ironically coming at Homestead last year. He was running in the top 10 there again this year when the accident happened, one of the first races ever his mother did not attend.
We just want the Nemecheks to know that people are thinking about them, and you know, more importantly than that is that they don't need to feel guilty for supporting their kids. you know, I'm sure that right now, because it's natural instinct, they're saying, gosh, I wish we'd have never helped our kids get into racing. But, you know, John did what he wanted to do, and he was doing when he died what he loved to do. And his family needs to hear that, because I know it's hard. It's easy for me to say standing right here, but it's a tough sport. It can be a brutal sport every now and then. It can be a terrifying sport, to be quite honest. But when things happen, if we don't all rally together and support each other, then this sport will never go as far. It will never gone as far as it has. And I and everybody in this community just needs to let the Nemecheks know what we feel about it.
If you'd like to let the Nemecheks know how you feel, you can write to Czech Motorsports, P.O. Box 177, Mooresville, North Carolina 28115. Or donations can be sent to the John Nemechek Trust Fund, Community Bank of Homestead, 28801 Southwest 157th Avenue, Homestead, Florida 33033. And finally, funeral services were held this week for Craftsman Truck Series driver John Nemechek. Nemechek lost his life following a crash at the Homestead Motorsports Complex, and the whole NASCAR community has been quick to show their support.
I just want the Nemecheks to know that people are thinking about them, and you know, more importantly than that is that they don't need to feel guilty for supporting their kids. You know, I'm sure that right now, because it's natural instinct, they're saying, gosh, I wish we'd have never helped our kids get into racing. But, you know, John did what he wanted to do, and he was doing when he died what he loved to do. And his family needs to hear that, because I know it's hard. It's easy for me to say standing right here, but it's a tough sport. It can be a brutal sport every now and then. It can be a terrifying sport, to be quite honest. But when things happen, if we don't all rally together and support each other, then this sport will never go as far. It will never gone as far as it has. And I and everybody in this community just needs to let the Nemecheks know what we feel about it.
If you'd like to let the Nemecheks know how you feel, you can write to Czech Motorsports, P.O. Box 177, Mooresville, North Carolina 28115. Or donations can be sent to the John Nemechek Trust Fund, Community Bank of Homestead, 28801 Southwest 157th Avenue, Homestead, Florida 33033. And of course, our condolences go out to the entire Nemechek family. Well, that's all the time we have for this segment of Inside NASCAR. But when we come back, Ned will rejoin you from the Busch Grand National shops of Dale Jarrett. Also, don't forget to tune in to CBS next weekend for all the Busch Grand National and Winston Cup action from the inaugural races at the new Texas Motor Speedway. We'll be right back.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us here on Inside NASCAR. We're in Mooresville, North Carolina at Team Sabco. Team Sabco has 3 NASCAR Winston Cup teams. The Coors Light number 40 that Robby Gordon drives, the Bell South number 42 that Joe Nemechek drives, and the First Union number 46 that Wally Dallenbach drives on a limited basis. All are Chevrolets. Robby Gordon and Joe Nemechek are part of our program today, and we'll have lots more for you in this 1 hour of Inside NASCAR.
After sitting out the Bristol race, Ricky Craven returned to the cockpit of the Budweiser Chevy last week at Martinsville. We'll finish up our conversation this week with Craven as he talks about his new ride and his new crew chief, Andy Graves. 1997 might be one of the best rookie classes in Winston Cup racing in years, but the biggest battle between the 3 newcomers has been making races. We'll finish up our look at the 3 rookies as we talk with Robby Gordon. Joe Nemechek had high hopes of moving to Sabco Racing in '97 and relieving the pressures of being an owner-driver. 1997 has been a struggle thus far for Nemechek, the driver. We'll talk to Joe about his trying start to the new year. All this and more coming up on Inside NASCAR.
Inside NASCAR is brought to you by Milwaukee's Best. When you're looking for a different breed of beer, unleash the beast, Milwaukee's Best. And by Kawasaki All-Terrain Vehicles. Call 800-661-RIDE for the dealer nearest you.
Well, there's a lot of changes going on here at Sabco, a lot of team personnel changes from one team to the other, and we'll cover that in our news segment here. The NASCAR Winston Cup drivers and teams are at the Talladega Superspeedway this weekend for the Winston 500. Last week they were at the Martinsville Speedway in Virginia for the Goodies Headache Powders 500. Of course, Jeff Gordon came home the winner in that. The Busch cars were in Nashville, Tennessee, the trucks out in Phoenix, Arizona. Let's go to our studios in Charlotte, North Carolina, and take a look back at those events and catch up on all the news.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Saturday edition of Inside NASCAR. After a week in separate states, the Busch Grand National and Winston Cup circuits are together again as they converge on Talladega for the Birmingham Automobile Dealers 500K and the Winston 500. Last week, the Busch guys raced under the lights in Nashville, Tennessee for the Bell South Mobility Opryland 320. The Cup guys were in Martinsville, Virginia for the Goodies 500. Rusty Wallace was the defending champion and had won 5 of the last 8 races at Martinsville. Jeff Gordon won last year's fall race and was coming off a win 1 week ago in the Food City 500 at Bristol. Kenny Wallace's first ever pole didn't last long as outside pole sitter Joe Nemechek went around him on the opening lap. Nemechek led for the next 21 laps until Jeff Gordon took over the top spot. 3 cautions highlighted the first 21 laps. The first coming just 2 laps in when Steve Grissom, broken foot and all, gets sideways off of turn 1. Then on the restart on lap 10, there's more trouble as Chad Little drops some oil, causing Jeff Bodine to spin out on the front stretch. After 9 laps of yellow, caution number 3 was out when Bill Elliott broke a tie rod, sending the 94 car into the inside wall. When green flag racing resumed, Gordon wasted no time taking a commanding lead over Kenny Wallace, sometimes as much as 6 seconds. Rusty Wallace and Dale Earnhardt each made charges toward the front. Wallace got as high as 4th in the early stages. Earnhardt, after starting 25th, had climbed his way into the top 10, but on lap 102 he smacked the back of Jeremy Mayfield upon leaving pit road and never challenged again, finishing 12th. Lap 222, outside pole sitter Joe Nemechek gets into the back of Derek Cope off of turn number 4. Nemechek continues on as Cope spins down toward pit road. By the midway point, it was Gordon 1 and Rusty 2, with Gordon taking home the $10,000 check from Gatorade for leading half the race. With 222 laps remaining, points leader Dale Jarrett goes a lap down to Jeff Gordon. He finished 16th. For the second straight week, Jimmy Spencer was again the center of controversy. Lap 328, he nips the right side of Gordon Chevy, sending him out of the lead. Bobby Hamilton suffers some damage but gets by to assume the new race lead.
Put a pretty big scare on me. I was just right in the middle of the corner. All of a sudden, wham, man. I mean, I got drilled in the left rear. Sent me spinning. Luckily, he hit me the way he did because it spun around real fast. I was able to stay in the gas, and nobody hit me, and I didn't hit anything, and just had a little bit of damage and really didn't hurt the car, and actually only lost a couple positions. So that that's when you know the Lord's on your side and that things are going your way on days like this when you can spin like that and nobody hits you.
Hamilton held the lead till lap 376 when Gordon raced by with Wallace not far behind. While Gordon stayed at the front, Wallace faded, finishing 5th. Gordon wound up leading 432 of the 500 laps, winning for the second time in as many weeks and his second straight at Martinsville.
Yeah, this is great. Especially here at Martinsville, we've worked real hard to get better here. We've done a lot of testing here, not this year, but 2 years ago. And what I found out was it's not the car, it's the driver's got to get a little bit better and a little bit more patient. And, you know, we were a complete team together today. Did it in the pits and on the racetrack.
While Hamilton was second, Mark Martin posted his best finish of the year, a third. Terry Labonte was fourth, his second straight top 5 finish.
We just needed long greens, and the cautions didn't fall right for us, but I'm tickled to death. The guys did a great job. All they did was change the air pressure 1 pound, didn't have to adjust on the car, so it shows how good a job they did yesterday.
You know, we were just off a little bit all day long and just never could seem to get any better. So we worked on it every pit stop, but we were just getting beat a little bit in the corners, and it was the same way at the end of the race. We're still getting beat a little bit.
Our car was real good on the long runs, and I knew that we were going to come out in about 8th place. Knew we'd never have a chance to win if we didn't take 2. The only shot we had. We rolled the dice, we run 3rd. After starting 39th and pitting on a back stretch, I don't know what else you could ask than that. That's way better than I've ever run here before.
5th and 6th went to brothers Rusty and Kenny. For the younger Wallace, it was his best finish since a 4th for Robert Yates back in '94.
A little incontent that I didn't get my top 5. I really wanted that top 5, but, you know, we finished 6th. We got to pole and we finished 6th, so we raced up front all day long. And it's a new team. I mean, tell you know, we're right out of the Grand National Series, so I was really especially proud of the guys in their pit stops. They were in and out with the best of them today, so it was a great day for us.
As for the points race, Dale Jarrett's lead over Terry Labonte is down to 45 points. Gordon's win moves him to within 94 of DJ. Music City, USA was the site for Saturday's Busch race. Mike McLaughlin followed up his second-place finish at Bristol by winning the pole, but it was short-lived as Kevin LePage passed him on the very first lap. 2 of the faster qualifiers were involved in the second caution of the night when Tim Steele tagged Matt Kenseth. Steele had qualified 6th, Kenseth 3rd while filling in for the injured Tim Bender. The Nashville Speedway made for some great racing with cars going sometimes 3 wide, but that contributed to this accident involving 6 cars. Randy Porter got the worst of it and would not return. Following the 10th caution, Jeff Purvis became the new leader. It was his first Busch race since being replaced by Tim Steele in the 4 car over a month ago. Pole sitter Mike McLaughlin was 3rd until his car got a little loose off turn 2, bringing out the 11th of 14 caution flags on the night. His 13th place finish dropped him to 9th in the points race. When they went back to green, it was all Steve Park as the rookie led the final 70 laps en route to his first ever Busch win.
All the emotion hasn't sunk in yet. I'm just thankful for Teresa and Dale. You know, Teresa owns this potent AC Delco Monte Carlo, and Dale, you know, pushes all the buttons to keep us going, and Tony Uri and all the guys. We had awesome pit stops tonight that put us out front all night long, and then it was just up to the driver to get the job done.
Jack Sprague was on the pole for the second time in '97 as the Craftsman Truck Series paid a visit to Phoenix for the Desert Star Classic 300. The worst crash of the day came just 32 laps in. Jerry Glanville hits the outside wall down the front stretch. Brian Reffner slams into him, sending flames out of his 66 truck. Lonnie Rush and Stacy Compton also suffered damage. The race had to be red flagged to clean up all the oil left around the track. Just past the halfway point, Jack Sprague successfully makes the pass around Mike Bliss, and Sprague goes on to take the checkered flag for the first time this year. It's the second time he's won from the pole at Phoenix in the last 6 months.
Rick, buddy, we got you one. Quaker State Hendrick Motorsports crew did a heck of a job. 30 laps in, I lost first, second, third gear. All I had was 4th gear, and I'm like, man, if we have a caution, I'm dead in the water. And we had that restart, and I was able to keep him back, but I knew if I got another caution late, I wouldn't be able to. But guys did a great job, man. I'll tell you what, this thing was running.
In other news, Winston Cup cars tested for 3 days this week at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. It was the first test session of the year at the Speedway. The Winston Select and Coca-Cola 600 are just a little over a month away on May 17th and 25th, respectively.
That's the reason we're testing here tonight. We told the guys from NASCAR or Charlotte that, you know, qualifying tonight, the races at night, what are we doing testing at 9 o'clock in the morning for, you know? Because the cooler temperatures are real important. So that's the reason for all the 3 night tests. I commend them for that. And now it's just got to get this old hot rod running.
Well, that's it for this segment of Inside NASCAR. Ned rejoins you next from Team Sabco. Join us tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Eastern, and we'll recap today's Busch race and set the table for the Winston 500. See you then.
There are 3 drivers running for Rookie of the Year honors in the NASCAR Winston Cup Series: Mike Skinner, David Green, and Robby Gordon. On recent shows, we have had profiles on Skinner and Green, and now Stephanie Boyd has the story on Robby Gordon.
When Robby Gordon came to Winston Cup full-time this year, the expectations were high for this 28-year-old driver. After all, he'd been a major star in IndyCar and off-road racing, with some sports car experience thrown into boot. But so far, his start has been less than spectacular, with the brightest spot being a pole position at the Prime Star 500 in Atlanta. That's also where he scored his best finish of the season, winding up 14th after leading 42 laps.
How big a boost was it to you to get a pole at Atlanta?
I think it was good for me. I think it was good for Team Sabco and everybody involved in the whole thing. It was a sign of there is potential of winning races and qualifying on the front row, and you know, leading that many laps at Atlanta was really good for all of us at Team Sabco.
How would you assess your rookie season so far?
Well, you know, I think there's been highs and lows in my rookie season, just like there has been for Mike Skinner and his. You know, he sits on the pole at Daytona. We sit on the pole at Atlanta. You know, we both got pole positions, but you know, we're both struggling to get into the top 5.
Because they're struggling, team owner Felix Sabates is shaking things up this week, moving Gordon and his sponsor to the car Joe Nemechek was piloting, and moving Nemechek over to Gordon's cars. That means the drivers will also be swapping crews.
Well, I think the change will be okay. I think it's a head in the right direction. I think that you know, Felix decided we need to do something different. You know, none of the teams were really outstanding right now, and we needed to figure out how and why. And there's a lot of gelling and chemistry that has to go on. And I think with what we've done, will hopefully be a sign of things to come in the future.
What do you think is the biggest challenge to you this year, the biggest obstacle that you're going to have to overcome to make this a successful rookie year?
The way I rate success is performance. So far, it hasn't been a successful year. You know, I set very high goals and very high standards, and I expect a lot out of myself and out of the teams. When I came here, I felt there was no reason we shouldn't be able to win a race this year, and I still believe the same thing. I think that we can win a race. I think we can be competitive in a given situation. The big thing is right now there's a big changing of the guards. You know, with teams changing and new people, new personnel, but you know, we had a long meeting yesterday with our guys, and all of us have the same common goals, and that's to be in the top 5 and to win, and I think we can get there with a little bit of time.
I know it's still early in the season, but it seems like just as a team would normally be starting to gel at this time, you guys are swapping places. Does that mean you start all over in that gelling process or not?
Well, we've been working together. We share the setups back and forth with Mike Hillman and Tony Glover. You know, the situation just wasn't optimized with the other team that I was with. It wasn't clicking. You know, we weren't thinking the same way, and I think the best thing was that we all should just split parts in the beginning, and we can head and get a new deal going, and hopefully be competitive.
Do you pay attention to the points, the rookie points battle, or not?
No, you know, the way I look at it, if I just raced the Rookie of the Year guys, I'd be satisfied finishing 20th every weekend, because that's about where we all been finishing, and that's not enough for me. I think you know, we need to look beyond rookies. We need to look at what are the veterans doing, because that's who you need to be learning from. The guys that have all the experience, the guys that know what's going on, and you know, there's a reason why the Jeff Gordons and the Terry Labanis and the Dale Jarretts are competitive every given weekend, and they got their equipment and their cars set up, and they understand what they need to do change-wise for each and every track.
One track Gordon definitely understands is the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. He's made numerous laps around the Brickyard in an Indy car, and on May 25th, he plans to run the Indianapolis 500 before jetting down to Charlotte for the Coca-Cola 600 that same day. Gordon admits he sometimes misses the open wheel ranks, but he says that he may have a future in Winston Cup.
Do you think this is an arena that you're going to want to stay in? Do you think you'll wind up going back to the Indy cars, or are you in NASCAR Winston Cup to stay?
I like Winston Cup. You know, it all. I think a lot of that depends on how competitive you are. I think, you know, at times we can be competitive, but you got to have the right situation behind you to be competitive on every weekend. And you know, that's one of the reasons why
kind of why I walked away from the IndyCar deal. I felt with the package that was going to get dealt to me for 1997 was not a package that I could win races with. And I thought when I came over here that this package was a package that I could win races with. And, you know, I didn't forget how to drive. You know, one weekend we're on the pole, the next weekend we struggle to qualify. I think cars are so important in this whole arena, and teams that we need to optimize that.
What do you think it'll take for, at the end of the year, you look back and say, 1997 was a good rookie season?
Hopefully not a lot of wrecks, you know, because I've been trying to be as conservative as I can and not have accidents. You know, we've had a couple incidents, but you know, nobody knows the real story behind them, and nobody needs to know the real story behind them. But I feel I haven't wrecked a lot of cars this year, but I'm staying in my own element, and as I learn, hopefully our speed will gain every weekend.
And who knows, with a new crew and crew chief, that may be just what Gordon needs to turn things around.
Hi, this is Jeff Hammond, crew chief with Parts America Chevrolet. This week, as the teams head to Talladega, the emphasis this week will be on speed and aerodynamics. Unlike Martinsville a week ago, where you were looking for handling and downforce and trying to cool the brakes, this week we're looking to make the cars go fast. Unlike the cars at Martinsville, which have big brake duct openings and large fenders, the Speedway cars of today, as you can see, are rounded, tighter wheel well openings. We also have flatter windshield braces here, clips with rounded bolts. Much like this bullet I hold in my hand here. If you want to go fast, you've got to get her slick. As we work back toward the back part of the car, you notice we have not too many NACA ducts as far as cooling the rear end and transmission. Everything's flush mounted. Spoiler is as low as possible and as small as possible. Angles laid back at 45 degrees to make maximum speed and less drag. So as we go to Talladega, we have to come with a completely different mindset from where we've been the last few weeks, such as Bristol and Martinsville.
Brand new chassis being built here at the Team Sabco. Major improvements on the roll cages of these cars over the years, certainly a far cry from the cars that I drove back in the early to mid-60s, and every race driver today will tell you how thankful they are for the emphasis that is put on safety in these cars, and particularly in the roll cages. Ricky Craven had a major accident a year ago this weekend at the Talladega Superspeedway, and it had not been for this kind of a roll cage, no telling what might have happened. Ricky was injured a few weeks ago in a wreck at Texas Motor Speedway, but he was able to come back and drive last week at the Martinsville Speedway, and of course he's at Talladega this weekend. Phil Wurz talked to Ricky last weekend about his injuries. He continues that conversation now.
For Ricky Craven, making it to the Winston Cup Series is a dream come true. He cut his teeth on the circuit 2 years ago in grand fashion, winning honors as the 1995 Rookie of the Year. He did it while driving the Kodiak Chevrolet for Larry Hedrick, recording 4 top 10 finishes that first season. He added 3 top 5s in his second and final season with that team.
It was a great opportunity. When I went to the 41 team in 1995, it was a team that had a lot of potential, but hadn't really made its mark yet in Winston Cup. And I felt like when I left the 41 that we had made our mark, and we had made some big accomplishments, and winning the Rookie of the Year in 1995 and winning a couple of poles in 1996 and leading several races.
For 97, Craven joined the prestigious and highly decorated Hendrick Motorsports stable. The other 2 drivers are pretty good. Jeff Gordon and Terry Labonte have won the last 2 Winston Cup championships. And Craven showed his mettle in his first race for Hendrick at this year's Daytona 500. Craven completed the trifecta for Hendrick Motorsports as their trio of drivers finished 1, 2, 3. And while Craven isn't thinking championship yet, he does possess a winning attitude.
My priority is to win a race, and I really want to win. I felt coming to Hendrick Motorsports that in my 3rd year in Winston Cup, I would be given several opportunities to win. And I think that we were on track to do that. I want to get back on track to do that. So it's going to be a matter of progress, going to Martinsville and having a good solid race, going to Talladega and improving on that, and on and on and on. And I think that the chance for victory will come real soon. And that's important to Andy, Scott, Jimmy, Kevin, all of us here at Budweiser, at the Budweiser team, we're just wanting to get to victory lane.
Helping Craven to one day achieve his first Winston Cup victory is 27-year-old crew chief Andy Graves. Despite his age, Graves comes with great experience. He came over from the Hendrick-owned Kellogg's team earlier this season at Rockingham, where the Bunt Brigade left the Sandhills second in the points chase. The 30-year-old Craven says Graves is the missing piece to the number 25's puzzle of getting to victory lane.
I really think that Andy coming on completed the package, because when I came to the 25 team, nobody here, nobody within the group stood up and said, okay, Ricky Craven's here, that's the difference. That's all we need to win a race, get this 25 team back at victory lane. And I raised my hand and said, guys, you know, Kenny Schrader's an awfully good race car driver. We all need to work to improve this. But there still were a few things missing, and I think that we've corrected a lot of that. And I know bringing Andy in and the way we communicate, and I think the friendship that we've built, something I want to preserve.
How has he impressed you as a driver?
He's got real great feedback. He understands the car. He can tell you what the car is doing at any point on the racetrack. He's really, really decent driver. I mean, I'm fortunate enough to work with Ricky.
The combination of Craven and Graves is one with plenty of room for growth. Both are young, ambitious, and eager to win. The relationship at the track is geared for success, but that relationship is also prospering off the track.
The great thing is that neither one of us pretend to have to be best friends. We don't pretend that we have to be like Jeff and Ray. It's just there. And I think if we continue to take a realistic approach towards our career together and what our objectives are here with the 25 team, that the sky's the limit. Because I believe in him, he believes in me, the team, we all believe in one another, and the resources here are plentiful. Cars and engines and pit stops, and it's all there.
And when you look at the average age of Craven and Graves, which is 28 and a half, you realize the window of opportunity for this newly formed Hendrick team is wide open.
If you look over the careers of some of the best race car drivers, between 30 and maybe 38, that's their prime. And I'm looking forward to that. If I can stay off the injured reserve list, I'm going to have some enjoyable races.
Well, thanks, Ricky and Phil. Ricky Craven could certainly use a break. Maybe you'll get it this weekend at Talladega. We'll be back with Joe Nemechek right after this break.
You know, one of the main things that we have to think about at Team Sabco is the team. And it's not, there's 3 individual teams, but it's an overall group. And we're trying to be successful.
I always liked Cale Yarborough a lot and Darrell Waltrip, but mainly my idol would have been Junior Johnson. Whoever drove for Junior Johnson was my idol, you know. Neil Bonnet drove for him, and Cale had a lot of success, and so did Darrell, but I'd say Junior was the idol, and he also he made a dream come true for me, you know, winning 2 Winston Cup races for him, and he's still special.
Well, it's my dad, you know, just spent so much time with him, and, you know, he's one of the greatest racers that ever raced, you know, and he was just always who I followed.
Well, being from Alabama, it definitely had to be the Alabama gang. Bobby and Donnie, Neil Bonnet, those guys. But I believe if you ask them, they would all say that Red Farmer. And, I mean, watching Red, he raced a lot there in Alabama. You know, he was always around Bobby and Donnie and those guys. I mean, Red, he could get more out of a car than anybody I've ever seen.
Until this year, Joe Nemechek had owned the cars that he drove in the NASCAR Winston Cup Series, and he sold them to Team Sabco. They brought on Bell South as the sponsor, but things haven't gone too well for them on the racetrack. However, last week, maybe they turned around a little bit. He sat on the outside pole for the Get His Headache Powders 500 at the Martinsville Speedway. And to cap off all the bad luck that he's had on the racetrack, he lost his brother John in a NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series race at Homestead, Florida last month. Stephanie Boyd has his story.
When Joe Nemechek went from being an owner-driver to one of 3 drivers in the Sabco racing stable this year, the hope was that the move would help turn things around for both parties. So far, it hasn't quite happened that way, with Nemechek's best finishes through 8 races being a pair of 19ths at Bristol and Martinsville. But Martinsville is also where Nemechek almost claimed his first career pole, an indication that things could finally be coming together. At the same time, though, team owner Felix Sabates decided his operation needed a jump start. So starting this weekend at Talladega, Nemechek and teammate Robby Gordon have swapped their entire crews, meaning Tony Glover has now moved from Gordon's crew chief to Nemechek's.
I feel really good. You know, Felix and Carolyn Sabates have given me an excellent opportunity at Team Sabco. And, you know, one of the main things that we have to think about at Team Sabco is the team. And it's not, there's 3 individual teams, but it's an overall group. And we're trying to be successful. And Felix and I think everybody on the team knows it takes time to make that successful. And whether I'm driving no matter what car or for what people work for me, everybody has to keep the same goals in mind. So we're going to try taking this change and making it better. And hopefully everybody can learn, and we can use it to improve all 3 teams.
If things go as planned, the change could be just the uplift Nemechek needs right now. For the past month, he's been trying to deal with the death of his brother John, who died following a crash in the March 16th truck race at Homestead.
I'm doing pretty good. Just miss my brother. You know, it's been really, really tough. Toughest thing I ever had to go through. Just miss him.
That's not hard to see, as one of John's trucks sits in the showroom at Nemco Motorsports. And the pictures on the wall show just how close the entire Nemechek family is.
Mom and Dad, they're doing pretty good. It's been really hard on them. And when they dedicated, I mean, the last couple of years, they really dedicated themselves to helping John get going. And to have it all of a sudden gone, it's devastating.
The weekend John passed away, Phil Parsons filled in for Joe in the Trans-South Financial 400 at Darlington. Joe returned to the cockpit 2 weeks later at Texas, only to be caught up in a scary head-on collision with Johnny Benson. But he says none of the events of the past several weeks have diminished his desire to compete.
All of us race car drivers, you never think it can happen to yourself or someone close that you know, and just freak incidents. And like with John, it's just one of those circumstances that happen. You know, everything happened just right, and it hurt him. I mean, we know the risk. We get out there and we want to race. We want to be competitive. I think one thing that it's done, it's made all the drivers, and I got to say a lot of thanks to Jeff Burton, working on a lot of new safety stuff, and all the drivers and NASCAR, you know, trying to be more safety oriented with the cars, and just in case something happens, you know, how can we make it better? And just a lot of work has been going into that.
And work is exactly what Nemechek has been turning to help him through this tough time, work and his family.
I stay busy all the time. We still have our Busch Grand National operation running out of my own shop. Between the things I do here, personal appearances, talking on the phone, and spending time at Sabco, my days are full. I mean, they're not short days, but I'm having fun, and it keeps me busy. I think you have to be busy, and you know, we're trying to get Mom and Dad back to the races soon. You know, they're an important part of everything that goes on with with our family, you know, with my wife fixing to have a baby. You know, it's all, everything has timing, you know, and the Lord works in mysterious ways.
Well, I guess you just found out you're going to have a son, and I understand you're going to name him John Hunter?
Yep, we're going to have a baby boy. Going to name him John Hunter Nemechek. Kind of continue on Brother John.
Continue on not only through another generation of Nemecheks, but also through the present generation, as Joe looks forward to the changes ahead and the brighter future he believes they'll bring.
You know, everything we do is for myself, dedicated towards him. You know, we got a lot of races to run this year. Still going to run a couple of super truck races towards the end of the year. Dedicate them all to him. It's like got my big brother watching out for me now, so hopefully he can keep me going in the right direction.
Well, thanks, Stephanie and Joe. Another nice guy that needs a good break in the sport of auto racing, and maybe it'll start coming this weekend at Talladega in the Winston 500. Still to come, the mailbox and lots more, so don't go away. The Inside NASCAR mailbox is brought to you by Miller Lite. Our question is from Robert Abramson from Plainville, Minnesota. What type of car battery do race teams use, and are they different than those that consumers buy off the shelf?
Hey, I'm Gary Plattenberger, Interstate Batteries, Joe Gibbs, number 18. Thanks for writing in, Robert. Regarding your question, yes, we do use an Interstate battery. We use an MTP-24, which is the same battery you can buy off your shelf. Interstate is the #1 replacement battery in the country. It's 850 cold cranking amps, and most teams, I guess, use, we have a lot of teams that call us and want batteries, but there are other battery companies, but yeah, they're off the shelf just like you can buy. Thanks for writing in.
If you have a question for the Inside NASCAR mailbox, write to us at Inside NASCAR. Post Office Box 240417, Charlotte, North Carolina 28224. If we use your question on the air, you'll receive this embroidered Miller Lite jacket and a cap and shirt from Chase Authentic, the authentic trackside apparel of NASCAR.
From all of us here at Inside NASCAR, we congratulate those who were inducted into the International Motorsports Hall of Fame during ceremonies on Thursday night at the Talladega Superspeedway. Richard Petty, Buddy Baker, Ralph Earnhardt, Jim Hall, Big Daddy Don Gardless, and Rick Mears. Also on Thursday during ceremonies in Birmingham, Alabama, in the Western Auto Mechanics Hall of Fame went Ed Guzzo and John Urban. John Urban was my crew chief during my racing days, and he also is the crew chief now on Dale Jarrett's White Rain Ford for the Busch Series. We'll be right back with more on this edition of Inside NASCAR after this. We're in the display room here at Team Sabco, and on display is one of the trucks that Robby Gordon used in his off-road racing experiences. Boy, was he good at that. Won a lot of championships and a lot of events. He now drives the Coors Chevrolets in the NASCAR Winston Cup Series. Well, Darrell Waltrip has a good collection of vehicles that he has used over the years. He is currently celebrating 25 years of racing in the NASCAR Winston Cup Series, and he talks about his first race ever at the Talladega Superspeedway.
Started at Talladega in '72, and the reason is because I had this Mercury right there that I was working on, and when I got it all finished and it was ready to go, I said, well, where are they racing at? Well, the next race just happened to be Talladega. Talladega, man, that's a big old racetrack. 2.6 miles. I had been to Daytona, but I just wanted to go to Talladega. I thought it'd be a fun place to go. You could run a car wide open there, and I had this new Mercury, 71 Mercury, and I was really anxious to run it somewhere, so I went to Talladega. I took Jake Elder along with me. He was my crew chief. Me and one other boy and Jake, and we went down to Talladega, and we qualified like 18th, and ran very, very well in that race until something happened to the engine. So there was no rhyme nor reason. It just happened to be the next race on the schedule, and I was ready to go. So that's where I went.
There's no other racetrack in America any faster than the 2.6-mile Talladega Superspeedway. This fact was proven on April 30th, 1987, when Bill Elliott set the all-time Winston Cup qualifying record with a speed of 212.809 miles per hour. But it was that kind of speed which in part caused the advent of restrictor plates into NASCAR. Elliott's qualifying record was for the 1987 Winston 500. Davey Allison took his very first Winston Cup victory in only his 14th start. Davey went on to win the Rookie of the Year in 1987. He was driving for the Rainier Lundy team, which Robert Yates was the engine builder for, and Joey Knuckles was the crew chief.
I was just taking it easy at the first of the race, you know, following Bill Elliott, just trying to preserve the car for the end of the race. And these guys did a heck of a job in the pits all day long. And I want to give a special thanks to the guys back at the shop that didn't get to come down. Them guys did a heck of a job all week getting this thing ready. Man, this thing was just awesome all day long. The Haviland Star Special is just something else.
Dale Earnhardt has the most wins at Talladega with a total of 7, including back-to-back wins in 1983 and 84. He also had a sweep of the Superspeedway in 1990.
Just race everywhere, and it doesn't matter. We enjoy it, I tell you. I got to hand it to the crew and the guys, and the team went out and excelled, and the guys just keep working hard. I mean, you know, every speedway race we come up to, they say, well, you got to do this, do that, and the guys work hard, and the car just runs good anyway. So.
No other racetrack in America is any faster than the Talladega Superspeedway.
Felix Sabatis owns Team Sabco, and he has a collection of motorcycles, one each painted up for the team colors of his 3 NASCAR Winston Cup cars. Now let's take a look at what's coming up next week, right here on Inside NASCAR on TNN.
After a disappointing run in Winston Cup last year, Elton Sawyer signed on with the Aiken-Sutton Motorsports Busch team for '97. After 10 races, Sawyer seems to have fit right in, as he sits in the top 10 a third of the way in. We'll talk to Sawyer as he looks to continue his climb in the BGN standings. While Dale Jarrett and Jeff Gordon have grabbed many of the headlines of Winston Cup racing this year, Jeff Burton has quietly been running as consistent as them, but has just one win to show for it. We'll see how career win number 1 has affected the Roush pilot. NASCAR racing has been one of America's most watched sports for years, but last Saturday in Nashville, it became part of America's Most Wanted. We'll show you why host John Walsh and the show's cameras were at the Busch race last weekend. All this coming up next week on Inside NASCAR.
We're in the lobby here at Team Sabco. Every part of this building is absolutely gorgeous. Last week, Chad Little's wife, Donna, gave birth to their first child, Jesse, and they got some unusual gifts, and that is the subject of this week's Inside NASCAR Profile.
If Chad Little had a little on his mind last week in Martinsville, you can forgive him. Chad's wife, Donna, gave birth to the couple's first child, Jesse Hardin Little, the Tuesday before the race. When Chad got to the track, he was surprised to find his name removed from the top of the car. In its place were the words, Jesse Little's dad. But that wasn't the only surprise awaiting Chad.
Oh, isn't that sweet? All right, thanks, Mary.
There's one to put in your car with you. Just got a magnet on it.
Office manager Mary Waddell presented Chad with these pictures of his new baby boy. He also received a plaque and an authentic portrait in this hand-carved frame.
This right here is something that my brother-in-law, Bruce Branch, has done all his life on the side. It's a hand-carved deal, and as quick as we found out Chad was going to be involved in racing, we decided to do a little something for his pictures and a plaque for my shop and what have you. And the plaque you saw a little bit ago is the first thing we did. And then when I ordered the kit, the special kit, the first one came out, we got this picture of Chad, and we decided it needed a proper frame. So that's where the frame came from, and it's been hanging in my shop ever since. So when the baby was born Tuesday, I decided maybe that he should have this to remember Chad by, because Chad's going to be out here running this race car for us.
As you can imagine, Chad was pretty overwhelmed.
I mean, think about it. It's really special people to go out of their way to give you things like that, especially on occasion like, you know, a new baby or things like that. I mean, that's a nice gift. It'll go up at the shop or at our house, and it feels real good that people care enough about you and what's going on in your lives to do something like that. I mean, that's a neat deal.
We moved outside the building now at Team Sabco. That's all the time we have for this show. We hope you enjoyed it, and our thanks to all the folks here at Team Sabco for allowing us to show you around their facilities. You join us again here on TNN for more on the Inside NASCAR.
Inside NASCAR has been brought to you by Milwaukee's Best. When you're looking for a different breed of beer, unleash the beast. Milwaukee's Best. Drivers, race teams, and race fans. The 1997 Simpson Race Products catalog is now available, featuring all the new products and services for 97, plus Simpson's complete line of racer and fan gear. To get your copy, call 1-800-71-RACIN and join Team Simpson today. The official vans of Inside NASCAR are Gladiator, built by Glovell, the official van conversion company of NASCAR. Call 800-445-2825 for a dealer near you.